Sorry for that long pause of silence, but I was just in the depth of conversation with my next guest, who I am truly glad that we have on here, because she's just educated me and almost brought me to tears in our conversation just before. This is the Jess Address, and I have Megan from Miracle Babies Foundations. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Maybe we should have had the mics on before, because our conversation was deep. Can you tell us a little bit about Miracle Babies, what they do?
So Miracle Babies Foundation is an Australia-wide charity, and we support families that have had premature and sick newborns.
And how often is that happening within our community?
It's actually really quite common. The population that I see, that's obviously what happens all the time, but it's about 1 in 10 babies are born prematurely. 1 in 10,
wow, that's a huge statistic. And obviously these parents require support, because I could only imagine and empathise that it would be a stressful situation, because it's an unknown. A lot of these parents think that they're going to go 40 weeks and it's going to be a beautiful pregnancy, but it doesn't happen like that, and it can be quite traumatic for the parents. So what kind of support do they offer parents with premature babies?
So Miracle Babies provides what we call a nurture program. So the nurture program is made up of Nurture Line, which is a 24-hour support line. So anyone in the family can ring that number and chat to someone. Everyone that answers the phone has had a premature or sick newborn. So anyone that you interact with in Miracle Babies has experienced the same sort of thing.
So we're talking about your experience. So how long have you been with Miracle Babies?
I've been with Miracle Babies for 6 years, but I started volunteering just before that.
Yeah, and obviously you've had a premature child or children. Are you open to telling us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had 2 premature babies. My first is now 16. He was born at 28 weeks and 2 days.
Yeah.
At 790 grams, which is very small for that gestation.
That is tiny.
Yeah. And then 6 years later, I went back and did it again. I had a late-term loss in between.
Yep.
But now my youngest is 10. He was born at 28 and 4 days, so 2 days more.
2 days more.
Yeah, and he weighed 846 grams, so again, very small.
So we're talking about 16 years. Was Miracle Babies around for you when this occurred?
No, not at all. My first was born in WA, so Miracle Babies started in New South Wales in 2005.
So your being a part of this is actually born out of the fact there was no support for you. What was that experience like? I could only imagine. I was an anxious parent having my first child, and you don't get a rule book, but you're always afraid of doing it wrong. When you're born into that kind of situation where there is a lot more risk, the pressure on the parent must be absolutely extreme. How did you handle that? What kind of support services did you get when that happened to you?
So you've got to remember, 16 years ago, there was no social media. There was online forums, but back with dial-up internet.
The old dial-up.
Yeah, so it was really hard to connect with other people. So really the only people I got to meet were through the hospital. My family and friends were really supportive, but they really didn't understand what I was going through. Having a baby born early and quite sick is very traumatic, extremely isolating. And I really yearned to meet other families that just could understand what I was going through, and I didn't have to explain myself all the time.
Yeah, I totally get that. There would be a lot of trauma in relation to having a child that is so premature and the risk factors associated with that. He's now 16 and incredible, but to have that twice over definitely probably drove you to the fact that you are now been there 6 years now. Miracle Babies Foundation. Tell me a little bit about the Nurture program and how that supports parents of premature children.
So part of the Nurture program is Nurture Time. So we go into the NICUs and special care nurseries and just chat to parents as a peer support. I don't have any medical background. I'm just a mum that's done it before.
So you're going in there, offering support, but then being able to see if they need other services, being able to access that services and support them in that way. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. So I work closely with the social workers at the hospital. So if I'm concerned about any parent, I'll go and have a talk to them, and sometimes they'll be linked in with the psychologist. There's also support services outside the hospital, and quite often I suggest to a parent they need to go to see their GP and perhaps get a mental health plan.
What kind of risks are there to children born premature, like developmental risks, things like that? What are parents really concerned about when they have a premature baby?
They are at a higher risk. One of the main things when you first take your baby home, you are very concerned about them getting sick. They do have a suppressed immune system because they've been born early. So our families are worried about being admitted back into hospital. You're also concerned about, you're at a higher risk for things like cerebral palsy, deafness, blindness, learning difficulties, autism, ADHD. There's quite a few things you're at a higher risk for.
That's just a massive pressure and load to put on a parent to have to worry. I mean, we worry about those things anyway when our child is developing. So from the Miracle Babies Foundation, so they go to a nurture program. Is that something that they automatically get access to in terms of the hospital recommends, or is it something where you go in the hospital and basically have to access them?
So generally I'm in the parent lounge at the hospital. The staff, being the social workers and the nurses, generally let the parents know, that remind them that I'm there, and they just come along for a chat. Sometimes the social worker will ask me to go and speak one-on-one with a parent, and if invited, I can go cot-side and talk to them.
Okay. What hospitals are we talking about?
So currently we're going to King Edward Memorial Hospital, Fiona Stanley Hospital, Perth Children's Hospital and Joondalup Health Campus.
Okay, so that's a wide... How many people are involved in that? It can't be just you, surely.
It's myself, and I have a colleague that does the north of the river.
Well, I would imagine it's essential support. What kind of... Do you get government funding? Is this supported by the government, this organisation?
So everything that Miracle Babies provides, all our programs, all our resources, everything's free. We get no ongoing government funding, so we do lots of activities throughout the year. In WA, we have a big high tea in May of every year, which is a big fundraiser, as well as just exposing people to Miracle Babies and what we do. We also do things like Bunnings barbecues. We were at the PBC Expo last weekend. We sell merchandise. We apply for community grants. Wherever there's somewhere we can get some funding from, we give it a try. Yeah.
Fundraising obviously is imperative, and, business support. I have a little bit of a background in terms of supporting organisations like you. So if there's anything that I can do in the future, or fundraisers that you want us to spread the word about, please come in, let us know about it and let us support it. Also, merchandise. I want a shirt.
Okay.
Get me a shirt. I will definitely be a promoter of that. Wellness. You talked a little bit about your wellness program. Is that after the nurture program?
So that's when our families can come along to our nurture groups.
Yep.
And so our nurture groups are supported play groups for anyone that's had a premature or sick newborn and that's spent time in the NICU or special care nursery.
And whereabouts are they?
So they're currently run in Joondalup, Willetton and Warnbro.
Okay. So if people wanted to know more about Miracle Babies Foundation, where do they find you?
So we're on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram. You can also go to our website, which is miraclebabies.org.au.
How important is it? I mean, you've experienced, both ends of the spectrum here, where you've gone from having a premature baby with having no support to now there being this service and people being able to access that. I mean, how important is it to Australia, because it is Australia-wide, isn't it, that we have services like this?
Oh, absolutely. It is such a challenging and stressful situation for the whole family, not just for the mum. So for our all our programs, all the families invited to come along. Family members can come to our nurture groups, and it's really good for other family to see what our families go through.
Yeah. Also dads, I would imagine we focus a lot on the mums, I guess, because they're physically going through this birth that can be very traumatic, and then by the cot side, but the fathers are there too, and that it can be incredibly traumatic for them as well.
Absolutely. And so often people say, how's mum doing? How's the baby? And dads get forgotten.
Yeah.
So with our nurture line, we do have once a month that a dad answers the phone.
Yeah.
So it can be really good for
wow.
dads to talk to dads,
Yeah.
but also for mums to talk to dads, because dads do this very differently. My husband did this very differently to
Yeah.
me. We also have dads come along at nurture time in the hospitals, and they come to nurture group. A lot of our dads are FIFO.
Yeah.
So they will come along when they're home, and we actually have a few stay-at-home dads that come and mum's back at work.
That 24-hour hotline, I mean, that's essential as well, because parenting, there's no clock on, clock off time, is there? It's a 24-hour job, and you never know. It could be at 1 o'clock in the morning, it could be at 2 o'clock in the morning that you're requiring that support, or just that person to talk to tell you are doing the right thing, everything is going to be okay, or these are the services, this is what, this is what I would do in that circumstance. What's the number of the 24-hour line? Oh, we don't know, but you could find out on the Facebook page, couldn't you? Definitely find out. So we've got Facebook page, we've got merchandise. The high tea is in May next year, and we're definitely going to be a strong supporter and looking forward to building more of a relationship with you. Is there anything else that we haven't covered?
No, I think you've done a great job.
Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you, Megan, and thank you so much for sharing your story. I know even though it was 16 years ago, something like that, it never leaves you. And the fact that you've showed so much bravery to go and help other people in that position. How long did it take you to go, well, I am going to help others?
It took quite a while. I had to wait till the stage where I felt that I could support someone, because this isn't about me. This is about them and listening. And I reckon it probably took until about 7 or 8 years ago, when I thought, I need to find something. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I thought one day I'll find it and I'll know. And that's when I found Miracle Babies.
And how are your children?
Really good. So, 10, he's in year 5, doing really, really well.
Yeah.
My eldest is in year 11 at school and got a part-time job at Hungry Jack's, and they have no ongoing issues. So
yeah.
I've been really, really lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, the early years were very challenging, and we had health issues, but now 10 and 16 years later, I'm out the other side of it.
Yeah, and perseverance, persistence, love, care, supportive family, and obviously a relationship that stood the test of time. We've supported each other. That takes mountains, and it takes a village, doesn't it? I say this often. It does take a village to be able to raise a family, and when your village is strong, you get children that are 16, 10, bright little futures, and happy parents that are able to give back, which you're able to do.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank you on part of the community, basically, for being that person that stands up and goes, you know what, I'm going to help someone else that's been in my position. So Miracle Babies Foundation, if you don't know a lot about it, get on their Facebook page, look them up, find out ways to support them, because this organisation needs to stay within Australia, and it does rely on the support of our community. Thank you so much, Megan. I know that we're going to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, we're going to listen to a little bit more music now. I'm not really sure what I'm going to put on, so this might be maybe a little bit of Cold Heart by Elton John, one of my son's favourites.